Hi, this is Anna Imagination, and this is the Healing Garden. We are talking about Plato's point. So I'm going to go ahead and break down to you exactly what is going on at Plato's point. And this is why the Healing Garden is 100% different from any other educational platform it doesn't exist anywhere else. This is very, very new. So Plato's point is the point of optimum transmission. Bottom line, it is the point of optimum transmission. When you are in an educational atmosphere, the environment is absolutely 100% of, let's call it a success factor. The purpose of any communication, and we're gonna do this bold here. The purpose of any communication. You've got one job. You know, that's what this is. You got one job, and that's it. The purpose of any communication is to transfer information from point A to point B. That's it. That is your only job. That is the purpose of communication. This is done through words, either written or spoken. Now, there are some people who are going to argue that you can also do pictures, images, and body language. And yes, you are correct. Absolutely. Because those are not common. They're common. Body language is common. This applies to them as well. So you have person A and you have person B. And you have two individual people. Now, when you look up the scientific definition of what a cell or a system is, a human being is a cell and or a system. They are an independent system, or what I like to call a closed system. And the reason why is because if they are not connected, then they are not going to have an open system. They're going to just generate with themselves. A hermit is a closed system. If you are not connected to a network, you are not going to be part of an open system. So we seek out networks to gain the advantages of open networks, of an open system. So you have two people, and their sole purpose when they are looking to communicate is to transfer data from point A to point B. So point A, and we're going to call point A the transmitter, and we are going to call point B the receiver. When you are looking to connect with somebody, when you are looking to engage with them for whatever reason, it is imperative that you have the environment in place. If you do not have the environment in place, you are going to have a poor connection. This is power economics. So we are going to cover what goes on during an educational environment where this is mandatory. So in the educational environment, the goal is to receive 100% optimum transmission. Now, when you have two people involved in this example, you run the risk of having two problems. And that is, you run the risk of having either a poor transmission or you have the risk of having a poor reception. Now, in addition, in the cases where you have a good transmission and a good reception, you are also going to have synergy, which plays a part into this. But synergy is automatically lost if there is a poor reception or poor transmission. So what is happening in the educational environment is the first thing you require is something referred to as equal footing, because equal footing ensures that both parties involved are in optimum receiving transmission mode. So in order to ensure equal footing and in order to ensure that both parties involved are in optimum position, and it's literally optimum mindset, to, let's just say, engage, optimum mindset to connect. Now, the prerequisites, and we're going to talk about this, the prerequisites for optimum connection are as follows. The first thing is you have to be on equal footing. You have to feel safe. You have to feel comfortable emotionally. You have to feel comfortable physically. You have to be well rested. You have to be fed. You have to be interested. You have to consent. You have to want the connection. You have to be curious. It's better if you are excited, but we'll settle for curious. Curious is a good state. You could literally put it on a spectrum of curious to excited, and the connection is going to be even more engaging, higher transmission if they are excited. And this has to be done by both parties. If you do not have these prerequisites in order, then you are not going to have equal footing. You are not going to have optimum connection for transmission. You are not going to have this. So with Plato's point, we take all of this into account. And our goal with Plato's point is to mindfully obtain, honor, and preserve the learning environment. To obtain optimum connection. So that is Plato's point. It requires optimum transmission, optimum knowledge, and optimum communication skills. Transmission. Let's clarify that these are the prerequisites. These are making sure that the mood is in the right place. Let's just say environment. So it requires the right environment. It requires the right communication skills. It requires the right knowledge. Likewise, we see the same thing on the other side of the spectrum. We require optimum reception. Which is the environment. We require optimum teacher. And we require the optimum learning skill. If the child does not know or the student does not know how to learn or use the learning skill, they are not going to receive properly. If the teacher is poor quality, the student is not going to receive. So now you have Plato's point. And it is the point in transmission where absolute understanding comes together. And using simplicity, the data is transferred from the transmitter over to the receiver with succinct simplicity and precision. When this formula occurs, what ends up happening is the student receives data so flawlessly that they literally can just, they obtain it instantly. And they obtain so much more at this point than any other position. It's quite powerful. If the teacher, and just the teacher has to be at Plato's point, if the teacher is not at Plato's point, and we're going to go ahead and show you what happens. The point is representative of how much data has to be transferred. And we're going to do this. The point equals how much data has to be transferred in order for the message, the point, to be received and understood. That's Plato's point. So in this case, at Plato's point, why won't this come? Plato's point right here provides this solid, beautiful place where one sentence will transfer a lot of data. Furthermore, if the teacher does not live at Plato's point, if they are over here in their understanding, they're going to receive or require a lot more variables to be understood and or received by the student. The student is not going to be equipped to receive that much information. Now you run the risk of the child being confused. You run the risk of the child being bored, shutting down, and it's all because the teacher is not present at Plato's point. The closer you are to Plato's point, the less words you require to transfer the data from point A to point B. It is 100% the teacher's responsibility to be at Plato's point. There's one more thing here. And that is the evaluation or the grades and testing. This is a really poor and forgotten, botched attempt at scientific method by non-scientists. So when you are looking at evaluation, what you are really looking at is a control group. The teacher needs to know, are you learning? Is the student learning? And this is where things get really wonky, because the child is the actual teacher. Let's change this to student. The teacher is a data transmission tool. A teacher is a data transmission tool. That's it. The student is the teacher. The student is the only one who can answer the question, have I learned? Only the student can determine if the student has learned, which means the student needs to be taught how to evaluate their own intellectual progression. Now, fortunately, we have science who takes care of this already for us. So when you are looking at grades, testing, and evaluation, you are basically looking to obtain a control group. What you need is, on a scale, you need data points. You need data points, you need sequencing, and you need analysis. To determine progression. And you need at least 3 data points. 4 is better, but let's say 3. And this is what you need. So the student has to be taught how to evaluate their own education. Then the student has to evaluate their own education. And they need to do this about 4 times a year, quarterly. And what they really need to assess is ease of life and due to skill proficiency. And that is it. That is it. So it would be something like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how easy is it for you to draw X? On a scale of 1 to 10, how easy or hard was it to do X? And that's pretty much it. That is the same question you are going to ask over and over again, indefinitely. So for the artist, you would be asking, what is your comprehension of X? It would be, how easy is it for you to draw X? How easy is it for you to problem solve and find your solution to problems? That's really what you need to know. How easy is it for you to let's say draw fur. That'll be an ode to my daughter. And the student needs to assess each and every one of these questions on their own. And then in 3 months' time, the child would go back through, redo all of these again, and assess it. And after 3 to 4 data points, that is when you would be able to assess growth, progression, etc. That is really when you see it. You are evaluating how easy versus how hard it is. Hard being 10, 1 being easy. The other thing you would do is, how happy are you with X? So if you're doing a mental health program where you are assessing the progression of something, you would be asking, how happy are you? But these are not questions the teacher should be asking for them. This is not data the teacher should ever require. The teacher would be asking completely different questions to evaluate their own teaching skills. They would be asking questions like, how easy is it for you to transfer data from point A to point B? How easy is it, and this is something I do for myself, how easy is it for me to conclude and wrap up a segment that I'm doing on YouTube? Well, let's do that right now. I would give myself 3 to 4. I would definitely put myself down as a 3 to 4 for my ability to do closing on a YouTube video. How often do I wander off topic and fail to come back to the original point? I would say 5 to 6. And then I would say things like, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how easy is it for me to not repeat myself and make a point, get off of that point, and move on to keep the conversation going? I would put that at a 6. But I remember back when it was like an 8, or when it was like a 2. I remember when it was back at a 2. So I would say 6, 7 now. So then I would come back in 3 months and I would evaluate so I could see my progress to tell me, oh, look at that, I am getting better. And then when you get better, you have the ability to determine, figure out what other skills you need to work on. As you master the proficiency of some skills, you're going to uncover you're going to become aware of the presence of other skills that did not even surface until the mastery and proficiency of other skills. That's what learning is supposed to be, is you're supposed to become aware of, oh, I've mastered this, it's all done. Oh, I've got new skills to work on. I didn't even know closing was going to be a problem until I'm now at this level of proficiency. I did not know that staying on topic proficiently and then being able to segue and then come back was going to be a problem. These were skills that I wasn't even thinking about until I mastered the proficiency of opening, closing, and just talking. So when you start doing your own evaluation, and this comes back to, oh, there you go, there's one. How often do I interrupt myself because I immediately jump topic and I cut myself off? Now that one, I've gotten better. I would say I'm at a 5 for that one. But there you go. So going back to this here, what you are, and this is really, really imperative, what you are really doing is the student is the teacher. The student has to learn how to assess their own learning, because they are the ones who are going to have to adjust their own learning when they realize, oh, I'm flatlined, I'm not growing. Because when they are 19 years old, they are not going to be around a teacher anymore who does this for them. Unless the teacher plans on following them around for the rest of their lives and evaluating them and keeping them on track, children need to be taught this skill at a very early age so the child can consciously assess this at 19, 25, 35 years old, so they know to constantly do self-evaluation. Self-evaluation is actually what grades and testing is, that's what teachers were trying to do. But they're bad at it because they're not scientists, and they're just bad at it, and they're just copying what everybody else is telling them to do, and they don't understand what they're actually doing. And what you're really doing is self-evaluation, but the student is their own teacher. The student is their own teacher. The teacher is just a data transmission tool. That's it. I'm a data transmission tool. That's what a teacher is. I'm a data transmission tool. My job is to transmit data. That's all I got for you. I'm a data transmission tool. And that's really it. Once the teacher realizes that their job is to just transmit the data, and then the child doesn't need inspiration. Mother Nature does that. So this is really, now we're getting into the responsibilities of teacher and student. And this is it really. And the teacher is the data transmission tool. The teacher is for curriculum and guidance for milestones. That's it. The student is the actual teacher. They have to do self-evaluation for personal growth. They have to keep themselves on track. They have to assess and do analysis for their own progression. They really should be doing their own planning. That's an idea. I was going to do I am doing healing journey plans for everybody, but I realized it would be better if people learn how to do that for them. So instead of me giving them their healing journey plan, I'm going to be teaching them the tools to build, excuse me, their own healing journey plan. And then there's the accountability. Keeping themselves, oh, it's the commitment. We're just going to get right down to that. It's the commitment. That's it right there. It's the commitment. Teachers just need to provide the resources and the tools. That's it. Their job is to encourage and to empower. To encourage and to empower. That is what a teacher is supposed to be doing, not enabling. The more the student does on their own, the better the teacher is. The teacher is going to have personal goals. Such as communication skills. Meanwhile, the student, and that's exactly it, is proper teaching is when the teacher sits down with the students and the teacher does their own self-evaluation. And the student asks, what are you doing? And the teacher says, I got to do my own self-evaluation. I got to figure out. And then they break down the reverse engineering process of what it feels like to do your own analysis. And it's deciding what, and here's the thing, when I do my own analysis, I decide what areas I want to work on. No one told me, you know, your closings are really shit. I decided that. It bugs me. So I prioritized working on my closings. I prioritized working on making sure I'm on topic and I stay on topic. I prioritized no longer interrupting myself. No one sat there and walked me through it. This is self-evaluation for personal growth because I value, are we all listening? I value the skills. And bottom line, this comes down to one thing. Teachers doubt that students will value education. That's it, bottom line. And that message comes through in all of their enabling. So the more a teacher enables, the more they're communicating, I don't think you can do it. And the student feels that. That's why the student gets crumbled down and feels. And this is applicable to literally business client. This is applicable to parent student or parent child. This is applicable anywhere. This is partner to partner. This is anytime you have two human beings coming together. This is what is going on. And when you have a situation where you've got two different people interacting, and it always comes down to you're exchanging resources, but there's a line and responsibility. And this is literally the lines of responsibility. That's what this is. The lines of responsibility. That's what this is. Anytime you have two people come to, wow, it just suddenly got really dark in here. Okay, focus. So every time you have two people who come together with the lines of responsibility and that infringement, that responsibility, thank you, Lizzie, starts to infringe on each other. That is what is going on in codependency. That's it right here. Are the lines of responsibility are starting to merge together. And students are not staying in student responsibility and teachers are not staying in teacher responsibility. And the student has to, it's absolutely role model. If the student were to see the teacher acting like a student, the student would then mimic the teacher acting like a student, but they're not. And instead, the hierarchy teacher is acting like a teacher, talking down to a student, which teaches the student to go find somebody smaller than them to talk down to them. There's abuse. Same thing with parents. Parents are up on this hierarchy of pedestal talking down to children. They know, oh, well, I've got to talk to somebody who's smaller than me. So now you've got bully children. That's where bullies come from. The teachers and the parents condescending, talking down to the children. Disabling the power. I said it before, you need equal footing. 100%. This is right back to you need equal footing. And the equal footing is when both are equal. So really, the terminology that it is would be both people, the teacher and the student, would be a student, adult, and a student, well, that would be it, apprentice. A really great way to say this is this: teacher can only ever be applied in the first person. And that's it. A teacher can only ever be applied in the first person. There is no such thing as a third person teacher. There is no such thing. Every philosopher will tell you this. This is why philosophers call themselves philosophers and not teachers, is because they know you don't teach others. You can have a discussion with others, but the philosopher is as much a student on equal ground with all the other students. And the philosopher sets the example of, all right, I'm a student too. I'm going to learn with you. So you have the student who is a master and master of X and apprentice in Y. And then you've got students who are apprentice in X and masters in Y. And that's where you would have two people being able to role model. But when you take on the concept of everybody is a student, everybody is a student, and everybody needs to act like a student, the child student now knows, oh, this is how a student is supposed to behave. And they'll start emanating those behaviors. It takes about 3 months to transfer them over to the system. So this is literally Plato's point. This is everything at Plato's point. This is what it looks like. Go ahead. And when we're going to be covering how to preserve the equal footing, how to maintain it, how to, when you open up your classroom, that you absolutely revolve the entire classroom around it. It's a lot, and it is absolutely imperative to the learning atmosphere. If you do not preserve and obtain that learning atmosphere, you are not going to have a healthy connection where the student is going to be able to receive the data that you're transferring. And I'm going to say again, you've got one job to transfer data from point A to point B. And the only way to ensure that that is going to happen at prime optimum transmission is at Plato's point. So if you are ready for the next action of this chain reaction, click on the link below and activate it. Thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.